Woo boy, Mountaineer Nation. What a 4-day weekend it was for our West Virginia baseball team, winning the Morgantown Regional in Game 7 over the Kentucky Wildcats of the vaunted SEC Conference. Oh man, it was insane. I'm actually celebrating my 33rd birthday today, so it feels as if West Virginia gave me an early birthday present. A lot of stress. I feel like years on my life have been taken off my total for what happened over the weekend, and I did not anticipate on watching 8 hours worth of baseball Sunday afternoon into evening. But man, I wouldn't trade it for anything. That was one of the most exciting series wins, I feel like, across all West Virginia sports of my lifetime. It was electric from start to finish, starting it off with the raucous West Virginia crowd there at Kendrick Family Ballpark. So we have a lot to unpack from West Virginia's 5 games of the tournament. So buckle up, lock in. Please hit that like button. A thumbs up really helps out the algorithm, so more Mountaineer fans can see this video across YouTube, and I'd love to have you as a subscriber, as we now have Super Regional baseball to talk about, maybe a College World Series appearance, the first ever possibly for West Virginia baseball in over 130 years. So we still got more baseball to talk about, y'all. I know there's still a lot of storylines to talk about for football for 2026, with some interviews that dropped from Adam Brenneman this past week with Rich Rodriguez, Zach Alley, Nick Cray, but we still have to talk baseball for right now. And I want to say thank you also, as I get into this, to all of those who tuned in to the live stream play-by-play commentary that I did for Friday night's game against Binghamton. That was a lot of fun. 1,600 views, really about around 70 people throughout 3 hours at any given time were watching. So if you were one of those folks who tuned into that broadcast, thank you. I appreciate you. That was awesome. That was a lot of fun. And maybe I'll do it again. Let me think about it. Let me see how my schedule works out to maybe do one or, one of the games of the Super Regional rounds against Cal Poly. So let's talk about it. West Virginia wins the Morgantown Regional, 4 wins, 1 loss. Friday night, a 10-1 win over Binghamton. Saturday, an 11-9 loss to Kentucky. Sunday, a 10-5 win over Wake Forest. A thrilling 11-9 victory over Kentucky Sunday night. And then Monday night, Game 7, a 6-5 win in 10 innings in Morgantown. And I love starting it off, all the notoriety and media and publicity that's coming for this program right now. I mean, if you thought, that's why I don't think I slept last night. With the game ending in the 10 o'clock hour, I just couldn't go to bed. And when I tried to go to bed, I was just thinking through what just happened. Just all the emotions just had me amped. So I'm just, going strong, y'all. I'm still burning out the adrenaline from the weekend. So many storylines, so many epic moments. Maybe the best showing by Mountaineer Nation, definitely for baseball for sure, of my lifetime over that 5-game stretch. Great for the fans, great for the businesses around Morgantown, with the awesome attendance and everybody showing up around on the hillside too. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a weekend to remember. And as it pertains to the baseball, what I want to break down, nothing that happened during the tournament was predictable. That was what I was expecting. Throw that out the door. That's why you have to play the games the way you think things are going to play out on paper. Just absolutely not the case. Left West Virginia fans on the edge of their seats with a roller coaster of emotions all weekend long. And talking about Kentucky specifically, I know that was a team that was one of the last teams into the tournament, did end up beating Wake Forest, who was, I think, 17 points higher than Kentucky in the RPI coming into this tournament. Wake Forest, beat Binghamton, but lost to both West Virginia and Kentucky. That was an awesome Kentucky team, and I'm kind of scratching my head why, but I do think now you can call it a new age, at least baseball rivalry, now that West Virginia's played there in 2023, won in 2025, or was it 2024? 2025 beat them in Clemson, now beat them in Morgantown in 2026. So a hotly evolving rivalry between the Wildcats and Mountaineers, border states. And the other thing, I want to say about, you can't undersell that Kentucky team. Matt Brown of extrapoints.com said that Kentucky was a top 20 NIL spender in college baseball last year at $5.1 million. And you can just see it with some of the the big hitters that they had on their teams. Could have spent a little more of that NIL money on their pitching for this season, but just goes to show Kentucky's got a lot of resources. Kentucky's got a national name, being a part of the SEC. So to eliminate them and their fans who were loud and proud for all season long just feels really, really good as a West Virginia fan and supporter of this program. So let's talk about the games. Let's get into Friday night's game first. And I'm really just going to talk about, while recapping a little bit, some of those unpredictable moments that I talked about that I think are worth mentioning here. I'm not going to really dwell on the negative. I think I got to talk about one negative storyline. I'm not going to get into individual poor performances or down moments. I want to stay positive for this victory because I don't think that we need to belabor anything that happened, because this is a winner take all. Every pitch counts, every inning counts. You were just on the edge of your seat the whole game long with every single at bat, because that's just the thing about college baseball. You get into a few walks or you hit somebody, the tide can turn so quickly. It's incredible. The thing I want to talk about from the Binghamton game, because it wasn't really all that competitive other than a little bit of a slow start for West Virginia. Binghamton took the early lead in the couple of innings, but then from there on out, Chance and Cole just absolutely destroyed Binghamton's batters. I think it was a really well-calculated decision by Steve Sabins. Let's talk about Chance and Cole. Tossing Chance and Cole because you thought to yourself, if you can beat a lesser opponent in Binghamton who had a lower RPI than Houston, who didn't make the Big 12 tournament the weekend prior, then you thought, okay, we can save Maxx Yehl. We'll let Chance and Cole go as long as he possibly can. Get out of there with a win, throw Maxx Yehl against the winner of Wake Forest and Kentucky, and that's the way that it kind of lined up. So I like the decision-making and move by Steve Sabins. Only threw Chance and Cole 67 pitches the weekend prior at Arizona State. I was kind of wondering from that game, why is Chance and Cole being pulled early? That was the reason why. I think Coach Sabins kind of playing a little bit of 4D chess and managerial decision-making, knowing he could throw Chance and Cole there for game one and save Maxx Yehl for game two. The other big decision in Binghamton that really paid off was starting Ben Lumsden in right field over Brock Wills. Nothing against Brock Wills. Started the overwhelming majority of the season, but Ben Lumsden is just a postseason dog. I know that I'm probably in the minority of West Virginia fans, and nothing against Grant Hussey. I know he was an in-state kid, program's all-time leader in home runs, but I was understandable of the decision last year, and it paid off to start Ben Lumsden over Grant Hussey down the stretch. And then when Saban started Lumsden in the regular season home finale series against TCU, I had kind of thought that he was foreshadowing that Lumsden was going to start over Wills once West Virginia got into the postseason. I thought we would see it a little more in the Big 12 tournament. No, brings him out for this Binghamton game, and he pays off, makes Steve Sabins looks like a prophet there, gets on base 4 times, which includes a 3-run homer. That was excellent, just showing off one of the, this team struggles sometimes for power, and you can see in that 3-run home run swing, Lumsden has untapped potential from a power perspective. I don't think the kind of power that some of those Kentucky hitters showed, but man, you throw an inside fastball to him, he can turn on it and park it into right field. So he proved that there in that Binghamton game. So easy win. Feeling really good about going into the Kentucky game the next day, until the very first inning. And I know it was kind of weird, the NCAA rule that allows a lower seeded team who has yet to bat as the home team. So West Virginia was the visiting team, and I want to hold off about errors because I'm going to come back to that. But it was just very strange, shortest appearance of the season, very uncharacteristic like of Maxx Yehl, going just 2/3 of an inning, 36 pitches, 4 runs on 2 hits, a walk, and 2 hits batsman. Whether that was truly an injury as we know it, or it was just, hey, you just don't have it on any given day, and sometimes even Paul Skeens for the Pittsburgh Pirates gets roughed up sometimes. Sometimes Tarek Skubal gets hit up for the Detroit Tigers. It happens. It's baseball. Again, that was a really good Kentucky lineup with a major leaguer, probably first-round draft pick, and Tyler Bell at shortstop at the top of it. And Chase Tarnish, really good hitter as well. But if it had to deal with some sort of dead arm, which I've experienced pitching myself growing up, it is not fun. Maxx Yehl, I looked this up before. Of course, we know, missed the 2025 season completely due to Tommy John injury. In 2024, he only threw 24 innings. Now he's over 80 innings pitched. That is high workload that he probably hasn't pitched in a single season since high school. So to now get to this point in June, been pitching since February, it makes sense to me that there's a little bit of arm fatigue, that he's worn it. He's gone deep into games all season long. I just wondered when it was going to come to a point where we might see a little bit of regression back to the mean, if you want to call it that. I still think Maxx Yehl is the ace of this staff, Big 12 pitcher of the year, unbelievable stuff, going to go to the major leagues after this season. But I can understand it that just in that moment, maybe a little bit juiced, one small thing happens like that with errors, throws you out of whack. Guys get put at bats together. So it threw not only that game, but I think on paper for that series, because you had to throw out the way that you wanted to manage your pitching there with Maxx Yehl only going 2/3 of an inning. So Ian Korn has to get warmed up really fast. He comes in, he throws 3 2/3 innings of relief. West Virginia claws back into it, only for Kentucky to take a 3-run lead in the bottom of the 8th, with West Virginia being the visiting team and not enough offensively to win it. West Virginia battled hard, getting down 6-0 to get back into it, only for the bullpen to just falter there late in the game. And again, Kentucky had some good hitters in that order who played really well throughout this series. So they just manufactured an inning whenever you needed a 0, and instead they took the lead. West Virginia suffered its first and only loss. So then the next unpredictable. So you already have that. Your 2 unpredictable things were really Ben Lumsden coming in and starting, doing really well in the 8th hole in the batting order, and then Maxx Yehl getting injured, having a rough start there to the start of the Kentucky game. You don't know what's going to happen to him for the rest of the series, given he only threw 36 pitches. What does this do for West Virginia's starting rotation now that you've burned Chance Cole, presumably Maxx Yehl, and Ian Korn had threw 3 2/3. You can't start Korn, I feel like, again on Sunday. So West Virginia has to turn to Dawson Montesa, the next moment in this unbelievable story that was this weekend. Dawson Montesa, as we know, struggling through parts and times with walks, hit batsmen, home runs allowed, inflated ERA to near 6. Ian Korn took over as the weekend starting pitcher late into the year, but I knew then and there, and that's why I didn't want to jump all over this decision and make a big deal about it, that West Virginia was going to need Dawson Montesa by the end of this season. And what do you freaking know? He comes up and has a legacy game and sensational 7 1/3 innings pitch. I could not believe that he got the 8th inning. Once he got to the 113 pitches by the end of the 7th, I thought, there you go. That's all you need to know with West Virginia have breaking through in the sixth with a 6-run lead when the game was just 4-3 to get the game to 10-3. I thought, okay, that's all you're going to have to ask Dawson Montesa to do. What do you know? He comes out for the 8th and gets an out as well. 122 pitches, 7 strikeouts, did give up 4 hits, 4 walks, and a hit batsman, 5 runs, 4 earned. But he just did it all. He was just a pitches eater on this day, and kept the damage limited when the game was again, you needed that 6-run 6th inning to give yourself some breathing room. But at that point in time in the game, Dawson Montesa neutralized what was a Wake offense that I think had 8 guys coming into the regional batting over 300 in their batting averages. So that was a hard-hitting power team that, of course, had seen West Virginia's pitching as well as Kentucky's in the fall. Very interesting wrinkle to this regional is the fact that those 3 teams had played each other all in the fall. And then Reitz Bassinger coming in convincingly, shutting down the game in the 8th and 9th inning. Did give up a couple of runs to get it up to a 10-5 game. But, man, Dawson Montesa, the story from Sunday's contest. So then that takes you into Sunday's game. So you've burned Chance and Cole on Friday. You don't know about the news came out. I don't know if it was Sunday morning. I'm kind of in a time warp here. When the news came out, on Sunday of if Maxx Yehl could come back, Saban saying that, hey, he could maybe pitch Monday if West Virginia could get to it. So no Yehl. You could throw Corn on 1 day's rest of throwing 3 2/3 innings, and then Dawson Montesa just threw 100. Just pitched. You're not going to pitch him back-to-back games. So what is West Virginia going to do for this Sunday elimination game against Kentucky? Well, right out of the gate, West Virginia breaks out with a decently sizable lead from the get-go, which we hadn't seen West Virginia do for some time now. Slow game. It seems like West Virginia first 2 or 3 times through, or one time through the order. So first couple of innings of a game, West Virginia gets to slow starts, really holds it down with great starting pitching. They're able to break out later in games. No, West Virginia jumps out to 3 runs early in that Sunday game with David Hagan starting, which I thought was a really smart decision. If Maxx Yehl couldn't go, I thought David Hagan made the most sense. The way he pitched against Binghamton on Friday, I think he actually deserved to go a little bit later into the game than he did, just hindered by a couple of errors starting out in that Sunday's contest. But that's fine. Got in kind of to the middle of the innings. Carson Estrich wasn't very sharp. Going to talk about, then Ben McDougal was excellent. 84 pitches, his season high. I know that he's been hindered a little bit by injuries by this senior season, but I said last year the way he finished out the season in that LSU series that he deserved a high leverage relief role. I think was kind of slowed by those injuries, but this was his moment. This was his chance to shine, and he absolutely did it in the later parts of the game. I thought, though, in Sunday night's contest that that was another moment of the Bobby Bowden curse when West Virginia lost the lead and then 2 home runs, taking it up to 9-6 on those home runs that McDougal allowed in the 7th inning. West Virginia, again, the visiting team, so gets a chance in the 8th, goes down in order. Only to have this unbelievable, miraculous 5-run 9th inning, all started by a Caden Cloud error of Kentucky at third base, Armani Guzman plating a run with an RBI walk, Gavin Kelly with the sacrifice fly, and Oliver Boone Bach that scored Tyrus Hall and made the game tied at 9. So at least you're thinking, West Virginia could be playing for extra innings at that point in time. You're not going to go down with an L, being the visiting team on your home field like what happened against Texas A&M in 2019, and then Paul Schoenfeld with the walk-off 2-run banger to right field, the best ball he's hit all season long in the most critical time, gives West Virginia the 2-run lead. McDougal shuts it down in the 9th to walk it off. And I know at that point in time, Kentucky just felt deflated. Oh my gosh, that they had it. They had a 3-run lead there going into the 9th, and you blow it because of an error and then just unforced errors. That was an example, I feel like, of the atmosphere, the fans making an impact on the periphery of the game. And then just Schoenfeld, just a hit that will forever live in Mountaineer lore of extending the series to a Game 7 when West Virginia is the home team, thinking Maxx Yehl's going to be the starter here on Monday. That was the kind of, Helm's Deep battle or Battle for Minas Tirith or Battle of the Bastards that is just like that Sunday night game was everything that you look for in a movie. Like, it was epic. So then we get to Monday, and at this point in time, everything's all square. It's just a winner-take-all. You think that Chanson Cole has enough in his arm to throw by this point in time, having Sunday, not throwing Saturday, not throwing Sunday on 3 days rest. He could be a part of the game. Yehl could be a part of the game. West Virginia didn't have to use Corn beyond the game against Kentucky on Saturday. So even with just 1.5 days rest, that Ian Corn could be a part of this game. And Maxx Yehl getting his redemption shot, he was awesome. I thought he could go even a little bit deeper in this game, did give up a home run, only 66 pitches on 5 innings. Could he have gone 6? Maybe. I'm not going to really question Coach Saban's decision on that point in time. Now, again, more baseball to be had for this Mountaineer squad. Now it looks like a pretty good decision. Only throwing around 100 pitches for this regional, you think with now Tuesday's worth of rest, Wednesday's worth of rest, Thursday, that maybe Maxx Yehl could get the ball Friday in Game 1 of the Super Regionals. Maybe it pays off. 66 pitches, 5 innings, 1 run on 3 hits, no walks. Turns it over to Ian Corn, who was awesome as well, who along with Yehl got a 5-run lead with 2 outs in the freaking 8th inning. Got to that point in time, you thought West Virginia is going to roll. West Virginia's pitching staff is holding it down. Like, this is it. This is West Virginia's moment. Just 4 more outs. To see that lead disappear on back-to-back jacks, again, just thinking that we as Mountaineer Nation cannot have nice things. Another moment of the Bobby Bowden curse kind of rolling in. He got to, what was it, a 1-2 count against Jenkins, the catcher, and then he battles him to a walk. Ian Corn. Next guy gets a single, and then that freaking Hudson just tanks 440 feet. Kid's got power. That was the thing about Kentucky. While you could not relax, while you could not rest on your laurels at any given time, because Kentucky just had that power within its lineup, that if you missed one pitch, a few inches, they were going to park one out into the outfield. So that was what was so, again, stressful as a fan of watching this all weekend long. But then, Chanson Cole got 5 outs. Then on a 1-2 count on Ethan Hindle, I cannot believe that Steve Sabins went back to Montesa with just over 29 hours worth of rest. Montesa struck out the next 2 guys that he needed to give West Virginia a chance into the 10th. Brody Kresser leads off the 10th with a single. And Brody Kresser, again, I don't want to belabor the point about down series, but Brody Kresser to come through with a hit when 1 run's going to win the ball game, that's the hit you needed. That's how you get a base runner. It felt really good for Brody in that moment. It was a redemption moment to score the game's winning run. Ben Lumsden works a 3-2 count and draws a walk. Armani Guzman, who I am now saying is the Steve Slayton reincarnation as a baseball player, hits the walk-off line drive to center field, just like he had the game winner against Kentucky last year down in the Clemson Regional. I'm telling you, you couldn't have scripted this better. This was epic. This was, if you're writing an ESPN classic and you're playing video games, this is coming in number one of this series. Unbelievable. Hits the walk-off line drive, and then because the center fielder made a diving attempt, I would argue if he would have scooped that ball off the turf, it would have been close. It would have been a bang-bang play. Because of how sharply Guzman hit the ball into the outfield for Kresser to score from second, no, instead he lays out, breaks his sunglasses on the layout, by the way, and then the throw was terrible, throwing it into second base. I don't know what he was thinking. Threw it into second base. I hope that Ben Lumsden's injured or is okay. By the way, I mean you saw the celebration, the dog pile kind of happen out in right center field. Ben Lumsden's kind of laying down at second the base after taking the ball on the throw. I hope he's okay there. I don't know if he got hit in the face or hit in the arm or what happened. That could not have felt good. But I don't know what was happening with the throw. Doesn't matter. Kresser scores easily. Regional, back to the Supers again for the fourth year in a row? Yeah, third year in a row. North Carolina, LSU, now Morgantown hosting a Super Regional. And why it's so epic as well, hold on. Well, I'll come back to that point. So where I want to now a little bit digress, do want to talk about some of the things, again, that was so unpredictable that led to this series is what did I say coming into this? Is I thought that if West Virginia wasn't going to win this series, it was because they were going to run into some hot pitching, quiets the bats. They can't, because of their lack of power, that they're not able to manufacture offense. They'll still keep it close, but maybe lose, a 2-1, 2-0 game, very low scoring. No, that was not the case whatsoever for the thing. And West Virginia had the best fielding percentage of any Big 12 team, one of the best in the country coming into this tournament, and West Virginia had 7 errors. 7 errors. I do just believe, my outside opinion as a fan, that this was home field advantage, the negative sides of home field advantage, because you had so much anticipation, because you had so many fans on the edge of their seats going crazy. I think the players felt it too. I think that the big spot, big moment, even though that West Virginia had played in regionals, super regionals before, this whole crew had been doing it on the road. And that sometimes, I didn't talk about this in any of my videos during the baseball season, but kind of I've been thinking about this year between football, basketball, and now baseball, is that sometimes I think that it's not complacency, it's not even lethargy. Sometimes I just think that because we as Mountaineer Nation are so invested, time, energy, resources, everything, that sometimes I think the players feel that. And I know that's, everybody has to deal with that, from the Blue Bloods all the way down to the G6 teams. But it's a reality. I think that we forget, even though that these players are being paid, and Jay Billis would argue that they're adults, that they're 18 to 24-year-olds that do feel the, stress and competition. And this was a huge moment. First time hosting a regional since 2019. All the fans who showed up, this was a huge moment for Mountaineer baseball. So for them to just have a little bit of the yips, I think the anxiety just playing a part of not wanting to make a mistake in front of your home crowd and let the fans down, rather than feeling like you're on a business trip away from home on the road. That was my opinion. That's what I think I saw across multiple games throughout this series. So 7 errors coming out of absolutely nowhere. That was a head scratcher that did not make sense to me. I mean, just some of the throws, some of the throws, you're just like, you haven't seen it from those guys all season long. So that was weird. I think that's what Coach Sabins would say as well. Now, something that wasn't as surprising, but just became, I feel like, a narrative that I know the announcing crew, if you were listening to the games on ESPN Plus, which arguably sometimes they were a little bit much. But, I won't grill them too hard because it seems like they had a really good time in Morgantown. We'll never forget this experience as well. But leaving 48 runners on base in 5 games. Now, I did the statistical analysis after the Cincinnati series and saying that most teams leave somewhere from 8 to 9 runners on base across the game. That's kind of the average. But in both Sunday and Monday's games against Kentucky, West Virginia left 12 on base. So against a good team with power across this lineup, you could argue that West Virginia should have won these games more convincingly, but just simply were held back by just leaving runners on base. That's why, again, I don't want to beat any individual player up, because at one point in time, everybody did this across the lineup throughout the 5 games, but just has to be a little bit better in that regard. And that's where, again, a fluke home run here or there kind of negates the effects of leaving runners on base. Unfortunately, West Virginia isn't always afforded that luxury with their power situation, at least with this team this year. Gavin Kelly, awesome in that regard. Ben Lumsden's home run, Paul Schoenfeld's home run. I think Tyrus Hall had a home run at a point in time in this tournament. But West Virginia's just lack of power, and that's just what I saw the opposite way for Kentucky that made a difference in making it, because Kentucky didn't pitch well. Kentucky was all over the place, hitting batters, walking guys. I think both lineups did an awesome job at pitch selection, and I think that Kentucky oftentimes received the benefit of the doubt from the home plate umpires. The home plate umpiring crew was all over the place. And I know it was to the consternation of many fans. I could see that on the ESPN Plus broadcast, that just the zone was just not consistent whatsoever. And I think that's what drives fans crazy is if someone's consistent, you could be consistently wrong, but just, man, it was all over the place. And then but the pitching depth, West Virginia made the difference, because so where Kentucky had the offensive fireworks and the power, West Virginia had the pitching depth that Kentucky didn't. Kentucky just looked lost to everyone that they went to throughout the series. I mean, I heard about this Slim Reaper pitcher. I think they were talking about Jelkin. He didn't look anything special. So whatever, Big Blue Nation. And then you thought that and I think it's an admirable, and again, talks to the epicness of this weekend series when you consider the fact that West Virginia, now the news comes out that David Perez shut down for the year. I don't know if he suffered some sort of ACL tear, meniscus injury, something knee related. I saw Spencer Ripchick of the Dominion Post posting that he had a brace down from his ankle all the way up to his knee. I don't know if it was a new injury because you didn't see that brace. But from friends I've known who have torn ACLs playing sports, I know once you tear an ACL, you can't go immediately, unless it's, compounded with other injuries. You have to let the swelling happen, come down, and then you can go and fix it. If he did something there late in April or, early May, now's the point in time where the swelling's gone down. You could go in there and fix it. So West Virginia losing out on one of its best young arms, high leverage bullpen guy who throws gas. So losing out on David Perez, won't have him for the rest of the year. And then also, I know this hasn't impacted the whole rest of the season, but to just still say from mid-March, again, speaks to what this team has had to overcome from an adversity perspective. To have Chase Meyer, your on paper best pitcher, dismissed mid-March, and you have not skipped a beat and have enough depth to beat Wake Forest, to beat Kentucky, win a regional, get to the super regional level, that just goes to show West Virginia might be sitting as the best pitching staff of any team in the country if they had Chase Meyer, who was, not wanting to put him, the I above the we in team. But that's not the case. And then when you think that you might have lost Maxx Yehl because of an injury as well, you just thought, holy crap, how many times have we seen this across all West Virginia sports? I could have thought, in that game against Kentucky when Yehl went injured, thinking like that is the equivalent of Deshaun Butler going down with an injury against Duke in the Final Four. I don't want to go to that extreme, but that's what it kind of felt like in the moment that, oh my gosh, West Virginia's Hercules, best pitcher of Big 12 pitcher of the year, going down with a fluke injury like this, woe is West Virginia. But no. On the flip side, let's talk positive here. I cannot speak how highly of Armani Guzman is. Heard during the Three Guys Before the Game podcast last week with Brody Kresser when he was talking about some of the, the jitters, the pregame jitters that he gets. And Armani Guzman, of all the games he's played in, the only time he ever even had that slightly was the Kansas series this season. So it just goes to show Armani Guzman's a pro. I know Gavin Kelly's going to get his flowers a year from now, go in the first round of the MLB draft. Maybe he'll even be the top pick. That would be freaking awesome for this program. But we got to start talking about Armani Guzman as a pro. I know he's a junior, so has eligibility to come back for next year. But, I mean, what more can you say about this guy? For this series alone, 7 for 19 with 3 doubles, 5 walks, and a hit by pitch, scored 6 runs, 6 RBIs, 5 stolen bases. What more do you want from him? And some of the throws that he made in this game, nailing, I forget who was the runner, was it Braxton Van Cleve of Kentucky? The cannon just looking like a young Roberto Clemente out in right field, gunning him down by probably 5 steps down at home. I know that Van Cleve tried to take out Matthew Groveland's leg. That was a weird play, I gotta say. I don't know if it would necessarily constituted an ejection because it looked as if he was trying to do some sort of wrestling spin move down to the ground, made incidental contact with Groveland's leg trying to get to home plate. But man, did that just look funky. But what a toss by Guzman. One of the plays, what was it? Was it Tyre? No. I think it was in the Wake Forest game when he scooped a ball over down by the home side dugout, flipped it across to the catcher Gavin Kelly, who made the tag right at the last split second. What more do you want from Armani Guzman in his West Virginia career? Has the game winner against Kentucky last year, has it again tonight. I mean, the kid should get a one-way ticket to the West Virginia Sports Hall of Fame by all said and done. What a find by Coach Sabins. What a kid. I mean, hearing him speak in that post-game interview and, the admiration and just pure joy within the Mountaineer fan base, his mom being there, I mean, that's what makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. That is what is so pure and why I'm really falling in love with this, West Virginia baseball team, with this season, with the sport nationally. And you hear this out of some of the other national pundits like Dave Portnoy or, I'm gonna have to go watch Clay Travis of Outkick, the guys from the Crane and Co. on 3 now. Oh my God. It's the one sport that now that NIL has not tainted, that to the point that there is still enough, I don't know how to say this, there's still a margin of room for competition between the biggest of the big boys. We just saw number 1 UCLA get beat. That's another thing that made this so magical, and thinking that, oh man, Kentucky, a blue blood program, not necessarily in baseball, but a nationally relevant program from the mighty SEC, was going to steal away from West Virginia because the stars now aligned. Number 2 seed Virginia Tech gets eliminated. Number 1 seed, the national 1 seed in UCLA getting eliminated, paving the way now for you not only to host a super regional, but against a 3 seed in Cal Poly. And then if West Virginia is able to win this super regional round, they're going to the College World Series. And you know who their first game is going to be against? Either Troy or Arkansas Little Rock. Not Arkansas Razorbacks, Arkansas Little Rock. Troy Trojans or Arkansas Little Rock Trojans. Get that. It's just oh my gosh, that it's not going to be corrupted like college football has, where only the richest and the mightiest and the powerful and the ones who can break the rules and have billion-dollar owners can invest and outspend everybody else to compete, or what college basketball has now become. We have to expand the NCAA tournament to push the mid-majors down outside the bounds of the 64 teams that are supposed to be into it, get them out earlier so that we get to Power 4 teams in the round of 64 as much as humanly possible. College baseball, there's still enough of a level playing field, and it's so cool to see this now. You have a Cal Poly, the other two teams that I mentioned, even Florida got beat, Florida State got beat. This is what is so, it's the essence of what college sports are all about, that anything can happen because you got guys, again, that it's not so far off the scales worth of talent all super loaded on some teams. So there was enough competition. So let's talk about them now just real quick. West Virginia is going to host Cal Poly for a best 2 out of 3 series at home beginning Friday evening at a time that's still to be determined here as of Monday morning. The first time West Virginia will ever be hosting a super regional in program history, dating back to the team's first season in 1892. Only just the second time West Virginia had ever hosted a regional. Cal Poly won the Los Angeles Regional, where UCLA hosted, beating 2-seed Virginia Tech 6-2 on Friday, 4-seed St. Mary's on Saturday 14-1, and then the rematch versus St. Mary's on Sunday 5-2. Cal Poly will benefit from an extra day's worth of rest. Cal Poly got its competition done on Sunday, winning the championship game over St. Mary's, but we'll have to make now the cross-country trip from San Luis Obispo, California, over to Morgantown, West Virginia. What a culture shock it's going to be for those players from there all the way over to the Appalachian Mountains. They're going to have to play in front of another 4,000 plus raucous Mountaineer fans who don't want to see their season end, their event experience. What an event that was for Greater Morgantown Mountaineer Nation this past weekend. So now you get to do it all again. Had 4 days worth of it this past weekend. Take your breath, fill up your coolers, get some sleep sometime during these next 3 days, because we're going to do it all over again this upcoming weekend at Kendrick Family Ballpark. So for now, I want to talk about two things. What should West Virginia do from here, till when that happens? Arm rest. Maxx Yehl, Chanson Cole, Ian Korn, Dawson Montesa, you have 3 days rest now. Of what can you do? And, this is a big moment for the West Virginia sports medicine team as well. Get these guys as rested up as humanly possible, because they expended some effort, energy, blood, sweat, and tears during this regional round to get to this point in time. So now you're at home. You'll be able to sleep in your own bed, as Coach Sabins has said, and now rest up, get those arms healthy, ready to go, and Sabins will manage the pitching staff and everybody again. Other than David Perez, once again, be locked and loaded back to zero. And I think there are some guys that just proved their stripes. I think, Reese Bassinger, Ben McDougal definitely, Dawson Montesa definitely. I might even feel a little bit more comfortable, but, we'll see how things go. Dawson Montesa might get an extended look. Or at least I think he just proved, that he's going to be, counted on for the 2027 rotation once again. So get these guys some rest as best as humanly possible. And I hope now that some of those postseason jitters for some of the guys who hadn't played in a regional, Matt Einish, Tyrus Hall, if they can get that, water under the bridge, out of the back of their mind, when Mountaineer Nation erupts at Kendrick Family Ballpark, yeah, they're going to feel it, but you can sense it. It's kind of background noise. You're locked in. Doesn't change how you throw the ball across the diamond from third to first. That, just slow heart rate, get it past them. But I will say that the crowd played its role on West Virginia's opponents in this regional. Do not, I would say do not shortchange yourselves, Mountaineer Nation, especially if you were one of the fans, not only in but around the ballpark at that time. That just intangible quality that sound, that noise, that definitely played a part. It affected the game. It definitely affected the Sunday's game against Kentucky. I think Wake Forest wasn't ready for it. And now, I looked this up when I was doing my broadcast, the smallest venue or second smallest venue of any of the teams hosting a regional was UCLA with just over 1,000 seats. So if now, Cal Poly played in a small stadium, quiet stadium, because UCLA had nothing really to cheer for from the Bruins fans. Now they're going to come to Morgantown, and it once again is going to be rocking. So it's going to work. West Virginia Mountaineer Nation can work their magic once again on this Cal Poly team. Going to do more research in them as the week goes on, and cannot freaking wait for this super regional against that squad. One last thing to round this out, and I think I have to address it. We're talking about baseball. I did see the news at the start of the regional, and I think it was fine that the news came up with, reported by multiple outlets, some, other YouTubers kind of mentioning it and talking about it in some points in time. Saw it across social media about the rumors of Steve Sabins being linked to, that's always the cute word, linked to the South Carolina job. I would take this as nothing more than just a sign that Coach Sabins is now nationally arrived. That this is what happens if you are West Virginia and any one of your teams do well in any given season. Heck yes, even Neil Brown, South Carolina sniffed around on Neil Brown back in 2020. That's why he got the extension in 2021. That when your teams do well, these big boys out of the SEC or Big Ten are going to think to themselves and count all their stacks of money like Scrooge McDuck and think, can we pluck away this coach away from little West Virginia? Here's all I got to say is, Coach Sabins, alongside Coach Mazey, built the program as it is today to get to the regional level, super regional level, maybe even a College World Series. This is what comes with the territory, is that other teams are going to be interested in your coaches, and you are just going to have to now invest back into the program. So I looked it up before, over the weekend, is... Coach Sabins is making $500,000 this year. The previously, now more recently fired head coach at South Carolina was making $1.3 million. So that just means, and I think it's going to take a conversation between Ren Baker, with kind of behind him in a room, with see-through glass windows of the donors who, what can they do to cobble the money together of what's it going to take? Is it going to take in larger investment into Coach Sabins' salary? Is it going to be a larger pool for assistant coaches? Is it going to take, you've got the now biomechanics facility. Is it going to take a larger NIL budget? That's what it comes with. And when I looked it up last year, when I found a good article from Chris Anderson of 247 Sports, when West Virginia was being compared to LSU, who again won the national championship last year, who West Virginia played in the Super Regional. West Virginia last year played at a $2.2 million loss for its baseball program. Now this year, with the added revenue of, a better regular, not better, but, another really good regular season. Now you get to host the NCAA regional. You get to host a super regional. All that increase in revenue into the program, that's going to be helped. That wasn't there last year because West Virginia didn't host either the regional or super regional round despite having a 44-win team. That's going to be extra revenue coming into the program. But, mo money, mo problems, as I always say. So if you want to elevate or keep West Virginia at this program level of playing top 16 in the nation, as I said, I think at the onset, Kentucky had a top 25 NIL roster this past season, 2025. West Virginia's now got to get there. West Virginia's got to do that.
That I love the philosophy. I'm not going to shortchange it, of West Virginia finding these guys at the Division II, JUCO, even Division III level. These guys who are diamonds in the rough, that you get them into the biomechanics center with the strength and conditioning teams, with the coaches, that they're going to turn them into gems on the opposite end. And we've seen that now for multiple seasons. So Coach Saban's can do it. His brain trust of coaches can do it. They can find and develop talent with the best of them. But now it's going to take a new level, especially in retention as well. If you want to retain Gavin Kelly, if you want Armani Guzman to come back for his senior season instead of going pro, what about Maxx Yehl? Or do you want to see those guys go off to Major League Baseball? And then you can promote that down the road of your players that you're putting into the Major League draft. But retaining Matt Einish, retaining Tyrus Hall, these guys who have years, Chanson Cole next year, Dawson Montesa, now who have played high-level postseason competition. Retention's going to go up, and then if you want to go out there and you want to add some pieces that are going to continually keep you here within this top 16 from a roster standpoint, but I think even more so at Coach Saban's. I think he deserves it. I think that, it's easy for me to say, let's spend other people's money out there, but to pay him $1 million, I think he deserves it. I think he's an up-and-comer in college baseball. I mean, into his late 30s, he's still got a lot of years to coach. Like to keep him in Morgantown as long as humanly possible, and he loves it. You heard the cuss word that he dropped right at the onside on a hot mic on the ESPN broadcast about how he feels about the SEC. So I don't know if he's going to be taking that South Carolina job. So just want to address that. What a weekend that it was for this Mountaineer baseball squad. How you feeling, Mountaineer Nation, on any of the things that I talked about? Leave your comments here on YouTube. Once again, if you could hit that like button, it would really help me out for this video and how many views that it can get around YouTube. And I'd love to have you as a subscriber for my channel. Even if you just want to tune in for the rest of this baseball season, then tune out because you don't want to hear me talk about football. Even though, I got some things to say, and I hope you enjoy it. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog that I do this each and every week and have a lot of fun doing it. Hail West Virginia, baby. Let's go.